My background is in Formula One. During the recent years that I've been working there, I've been able to understand and really see how Formula One teams extract the best out of technology and data to get the best lap time. This photo is one of the crucial moments of a race, the race start. The race start marks the beginning of a battle for a race win. Fans impatiently await for the red lights to turn off and see their favorite drivers, the best drivers in the world, to fight for that race win. Today I would like to tell you how Formula One uses technology and data, and how this approach towards data has been cascading down to other sports and also into our current lives. So to do that, and before the race starts, there is a lot of this. What you can see here is Sebastian Vettel, a racing driver in Formula One, who's looking very carefully at a A4 sheet of paper. What this sheet of paper contains is a lot of information on how he has performed across a lap of a racetrack. What he has on his hands is very likely something like this. So in spite of how complicated this may seem to you, it's actually not that difficult to understand. And if you allow me to, I'm going to walk you through small details of it that are going to allow you to really see what's going on there. So first of all, what I should say here is that this is data acquired from a lap around the Monaco street circuit. What we can see in the horizontal axis is distance. So basically, to achieve a full lap of the Monaco street circuit, we have to go through 3,200 meters. Then, on the two vertical axes, we have different bits of information, like, for example, the car velocity, the brake pedal pressure, and also the throttle position. What we're looking here is the comparison of a lap, which represents the blue line, against another reference lap, which is the red line. So let me focus only on the beginning of the lap, on this bit here. Here, if you want to understand where we are gaining time within the lap, we have to look at the line that is shown in the middle of the screen. As you can see, this bit starts as an horizontal line, but then it goes down, meaning that there's an improvement in time. Where is this improvement coming from? Well, we need to pay attention at these two curves here. As you can see, the blue line, which is our actual lap, is applying brake pressure much later than the red one, and is not only applying it later, but also applying it harder. What this means is that we're going to be able to sustain speed for longer before we actually get to a corner. And also, after the corner, we're going to be able to get up to speed much faster. This is basically where lap times improvement come from. All these marginal gains have to come through an analysis of hundreds or even thousands of laps like this one. And some of the best racing drivers out there are able to identify what racetrack they're seeing on the data only by looking at these kind of lines. But obviously this is only performance data. There is a lot more behind Formula One than this. For example, we know that reliability is a key aspect in Formula One. You cannot win races if you don't have a reliable car. For that reason, every Formula One race car is fitted with 500 sensors that generate 2 gigabytes of data. Every car, every race. All this data is then analyzed by several engineers who can be either at the racetrack or back at the factories. But let's talk about other sports, because obviously data is very important in Formula One, but there are other sports using similar approaches. For example, in the Tour de France, manufacturers of bicycles as well as riders, cyclists, have been using similar technology in order to develop either products that are aerodynamic or to develop positions when riding the bicycle that are also more aerodynamic. And through these gains, they managed to get more performance and actually win their competitors. Similarly, in athletics, for example, we see that some shoe manufacturers are using data acquired from gait analysis in order to engineer better products that are later going to help the athletes achieve world records. And I think it's really interesting to see how this approach toward data is cascading down from very professional industries like Formula One or other sports down to what we have and what we do in our everyday lives. Thanks to the Internet of Things, today we're able to track our weight, our body mass index, our calories, or maybe are able to see how much we exercise and if we exercise enough. But really, what does it mean for society? What does this mean for us? Because we have been using data in Formula One or in sports to strive for perfection. Well, I think in order to get a better idea of what this could mean, we really have to look at what has been the impact of data in Formula One, for example. This graph here shows you the evolution of lap time improvement along the history of the sport. So basically what this shows is that in the early days of the sport, the gains in lap time were achieved faster and more frequently. As we progressed through the history, we started using technology and data. And thanks to them, we were able to extract more performance out of new parts. But not only that, we were able to extract better performance. We were able to understand where we should seek performance. And also, and last but not least, we were able to extract this performance in a faster way. What this has meant is that the sport slowly has become boring because the rate of improvement of the performance has been flattening, as the previous slide showed. The impact of this has been that the viewership data on the sport has been dropping since from 800 million in the early 2000s down to 400 million recently in 2015. Obviously, the industry is very aware of what's going on here, and what they've been trying to do is to inorganically change the sport. So if we imagine that we have a set of regulations by which we have the perfect lap and we have a slow lap, as teams use technology and data to understand how to improve, the gap between the best and the slowest has been decreasing, at what point the sport becomes boring. So at which point regulators set a new set of rules, and then they move back the pecking order, and the gap widens again. This is something very current as well. In 2019, it is expected that a new set of regulation will start and will be implemented. And what this will mean is that Formula One cars might be between 1 and 1.2 seconds a lap slower than what they are today. And we see something similar also in athletics. We see that in the early days of athletics, on the 100-meter sprint, for example, the world record achievements in the early days used to be much larger than what they are today. The difference here is that it's not so much about creating imperfection as much as it's been in Formula One, but here is about redefining imperfection. Whereas if you have a similar aspect in terms of times, the use of technology allows the athletes to move closer those times for the same distance, but they, through the use of medical advancements and doping, they redefine what perfection means to them. I think this is really interesting, and I think it's in a way it's positive that we can use all this data, because at the end of the day we're becoming healthier. We know what to eat. We know we have to exercise, and we exercise in a better way. So yes, it has a lot of positive implications. But it is also true that on the other hand, we have other important aspects to consider. Like, for example, in the United States, the cases of diabetes have been growing, and they're only expected to grow. In a similar way, companies selling alcoholic drinks in the US have been seeing revenues increasing in recent years, and that's only projected to increase as well in the following decades. So I think here it is critical to understand the way we're going to use data. We've been using data to achieve perfection in several sports. So if we are to use the data in a similar way for our lives, are we going to try to reach perfection? And if we try to reach perfection, what is this perfection going to mean to us? And when we get to that point, are we going to try to create imperfection inorganically, like Formula One have been doing? Or are we going to try and redefine what perfection means, as it's been happening in athletics? And also, is the meaning or the perception that we have on technology and data going to change when we get to that moment? Very recently, Fernando Alonso, one of the most well-known drivers in Formula One, has been very outspoken about the fact that Formula One has become very predictive. And he's in favor of having a massive rule change, like radical changes. One of the changes that he has been talking about, for example, has been the elimination of telemetry. So the data I was showing you before, in which racing drivers can look very closely at where they can improve their lap times, that is what they would be removing. I think it's this kind of opinions in industries where data is so important and has been exploited so much that we can draw some conclusions on. And is that the fact that we need imperfection, it is interesting. And also, we've been seeing in sports as well in our lives, in many areas of our lives, that we're holding technology back because we don't want to become perfect. Thank you very much.